Okay, looking at this warm-up, it's asking you to find the perimeter. We need to remind ourselves that perimeter means to add up all sides. So when I start with that, I'm going to add up all my x's, add up all my x squareds, and then my numbers. So first off, let's look at the x squareds. I have 2x squared and 2x squared. Are there any other x squareds? Oh, yep, down there at the bottom. How many is that if it just says x squared? Well, no, I mean, how many does this one say? Just a 1. So I've got 2 plus 2 plus 1, which gives me 5x squared. So this is the perimeter equals. Now I'm going to go and do my x's. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 12x. Then I'm going to go and I've got -4 and -4, which is -8, plus 1, -7. That's my answer. I can't do anything else with it because the x squareds have to stay separate from the x's and from the units. This is true when you're adding and subtracting. Okay, be very careful because what we're about to start in with today. Now, let's see, we're talking about multiplying polynomials. Well, first off, let's get these three written down right here. Let's go on the back. This is on the back of your half sheet. First off, we have 2 times x. Well, 2 times x is 2x because all you're doing is multiplying these two things. 3 times x, 3x. 3 times 2x, 6x. See, because it's saying just 3 groups of 2x's. All you're doing is multiplying those together. Okay? So what is x times x? If I take right here and I bring an x right there. Oh, didn't want to move. It flipped over wherever. Let's see. Try an x times an x. If I drew and continued my lines, it would give me, oh, is it going to move? There we go. It's going to give me a big box, which we should know already from our tiles is an x squared. See, because this is x to the first power times x to the first power, x times x gives me x squared. Now, let's look at these. Okay, so if I look at, let me pull my screen down. Look at this first one. It says 2x times x. I'm going to draw this. Now, what I'm drawing right here by the going a horizontal or vertical line, it's called a factor frame. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to put 2 x's. Whatever's in the first, what's listed first goes down the first column. So I'm going to bring over here and I've got 1, 2 x's times x. So I'll put this x up above the top. When I continue out my lines, an x and an x gives me an x squared. Again, down here, look to the left and look above. X times x gives me an x squared. Maybe if it'll move. There we go. So now for my answer, 2x times x gives me 2x squared. The next one, I'm going to draw a factor frame. Probably going to have to make this a little bit bigger. I'll see, I have to fix it later. All right. So it says 3x, 1, I'll bring them over here and then I'll move it down. Well, golly gee. Whoa. Yeah, I know. I gotta try and move these things. There we go. Hello. All right. So I've got 3x. They are really playing with me here. All right. Times x. Well, instead of bringing down the other box right there, normally what I do when I draw these in, I'll bring the lines down and complete the lines out. And I get x squared, x squared, x squared, which is 3x squared. So the next one right here, without drawing out the tiles, I take -2 times 3, which gives me -6. X times x is x squared. The next one, we're over here. It was -6x squared. On this one, it says x squared times x. The exponent that's on this x is a 1. Okay? This is saying that I have 2x's and 1x. How many x's do I have right here? 3. This is x to the third power. What you're actually doing is adding the exponents. This next one down below, multiply the coefficients. 3 times 2, which gives you 6. Then I have x squared times x, and x is to the first power. It's x to the third power, or x cubed, yes. Try that next one down there. So right here on this one, you're going to take and multiply the coefficients, which gives you -28. Then there's the x, and you're going to add the exponents. So it's x to the 5th power. Now, let's look at these next ones. We're going to do these with the distributive property. We're going to take what's outside the parentheses and multiply it by each thing inside. So I'm going to take -2x times 3x squared. -2 times -3 is -6. Now, this is x to the first power. X to the first power times x to the second power. X to the 1 plus 2 is 3. Next one, -2x times -6x. -2 times -6, +12. X times x is x squared. Now we're going to take -2x times 4. -2 times 4 is -8x. Try and do the next one right now by yourself. Let me pull that down. Do the next two. Okay, one of the questions was whether or not after we multiply, can we put these together? You can't put these terms together because the x to the third power is different than the x to the second power. Just like when we were drawing the tiles, the x's were the rectangles, the x squareds were the squares. We don't have one for x to the cube. But since they're different shapes, they're different things, and you can't put them together. On the next problem here, you should have taken 4x squared times negative 2x. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. X squared and x to the first power, add the exponents, x to the third power. Now we have negative 4x squared minus 1 gives me negative 4x squared. Next one, you would have taken negative x times 3x squared. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. This is x to the first power, so I add 1 and 2, x to the third power. Then you take negative x times 7x. Gives me negative 7x squared. Negative x times negative 8, positive 8x. Okay, now let's go from here and let's go on to the next lesson.